what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we have something a little bit different. We have one Cat 1 versus 3 Cat 5s. Who will win in a heads-up battle? 5 laps on the Alviso course. Let's do it.
Jeff, what is your strategy to win?
First strategy is not to let them listen to my strategy to win. So let's come over here. I'm gonna try to cross the finish line first. That's my strategy. No, here's the deal. Here's the deal. Are you close enough with this camera, by the way? This is complicated. This is complicated. I think the best way in this situation, it's hard to predict. They haven't raced yet. They're Cat 5s, they're brand new to the sport. I don't know, they might be really fast. So I'm gonna try to work backwards. I'm gonna say, what is the situation I don't wanna be in? So how can I prevent that from happening? The situation I don't wanna be in is if I'm doing a really hard effort to chase one or more of them back, long, sustained effort on the front with them in my draft is how I'm gonna lose this race. So if I can prevent that from happening, and then all things being equal, I'm at 200 meters to go at the end of the race, we're good to go.
Maybe one of them sticks.
Yeah. Are you coaching?
I'm coaching.
What's the strategy, guys? Jeff.
All right, so kind of what we were thinking here is we're gonna have one person kind of just hold Jeff's wheel, and I think it might be you, since you have the sprint. And we're just gonna keep going, 1, 2, and Jeff. If one of us sticks away, just kind of keep going. But our goal is to keep him fresh, and hopefully have Jeff wear down a little bit, and maybe we'll have something for him down that last straightaway.
Hey, let's get it. I'm rooting for you. All right, Cat 5s on 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Cat 5s!
Okay, but first a quick message from the sponsor of this video, and that is Masterworks. Look, both pros and amateurs know that a huge part of cycling happens off the road. Pros are now even using AI to plan their diets for the Tour de France, and you can't forget hardware. It's why I do gear tests and reviews, so you guys don't waste your own money, but I'm not the only one running the numbers and putting in the legwork, pardon the pun, to get you guys great value. Masterworks used their data-driven approach to return over $25 million last year to users like you. They even handed back returns within the last 3 weeks. With inflation basically taking money out of your bank account, it's daunting to sit around and do nothing. So that's why Masterworks uses industry-leading data and analysis so you can access a market that saw prices rise an average of 29% last year. Look, I'm not an expert in fine art, and if you're not either, that's totally okay. Neither are many of the 700,000 users already on the Masterworks platform. But regardless, they've seen a positive return on every single piece Masterworks has sold so far. And understandably so, paintings have sold out in just minutes before, but your account will be preloaded with priority access if you use my link below. With that said, let's get back to the content.
All right, 3, 2, 1, go! Nice.
Yo, what is up, guys? All right, we are off. And what's the plan here? If I can get to 200 meters to go, staying in the draft, I'm a happy man. So I'm going to try my best not to let them do the counterattack thing this entire race. That is my plan. And right off the bat, it's looking like a really good start here. I'm getting a good draft. And honestly, if I were them, it's 3 versus 1. I would just immediately, from the whistle, start counterattacking. Because that's the situation you want to get yourself in, is where I am chasing. Every time I'm chasing and they're in my draft, they're winning. Because that's how drafting works. And that's how success works in this sport. So you try to maximize the amount of time you spend in the draft, and maximize the amount of time that your competition stays out of the draft. Because the differences between athletes, especially at a really high level in this sport, is just a couple of percentage points. Maybe more in some cases, but drafting represents like 20, 30%, maybe even more in some cases of a benefit. So that immensely offsets the skill set difference, the ability difference between high levels of racers. So that's why drafting makes this sport so interesting, so dynamic. And even at lower levels, like we see here, it's really important. So the fundamentals are the same, and that's going to be my plan here, is just to spend as much time as I possibly can in the draft, and still, like as I've been talking, I'm still in the draft here. Like, they should just be immediately counterattacking. This is a very short race. They need to try to just wear me down as much as possible, and I immediately. This is the crosswind section. So if you look at the little blue arrows in the bottom right-hand corner. The reason I'm doing this effort isn't because I think I'm going to get away, and it's not because I think I'm going to, like, drop one of them or something like that. It's just because if I'm in the gutter here on the right-hand side because of the crosswind, that means they don't get a draft. my draft is essentially being blown away is one way to think about it. Off the side of the road, they're not benefiting from it. Once I turn back into the headwind here, you can see the power has come back down, and I am no longer just letting them sit behind me in my draft at any consequential speed. We're going 19 miles an hour, but that's when I see one of them kind of attack. So this is when it gets a little bit weird because they need to commit to these. Like I think his intention here was to get away, open a gap on me, but he didn't really commit to it. You know what I mean? You have to do that slingshot that we talked about so much in previous videos, which is like attacking from the very back of a group, and then you carry your speed past the front of the group. It's so much harder to jump into their draft, jump into that shelter if you're doing that. And he kind of attacked from the front. So this looked better. See how he came by with some speed? Now I'm able to get back into his draft. The problem with this attack now is he did it from the left-hand side of the road. Again, this is a left-to-right crosswind. If you look at those blue arrows, he's giving me shelter. And I was able to stay in the shelter from his teammate for a little bit longer. And I know these things seem small, but right now I'm getting an epic draft. He should be all the way to the right-hand side of the road. And another thing you may have noticed is his teammates didn't respond that quickly. So this is kind of defeating the purpose of the attack because I'm in his draft, but his teammates aren't. So he's kind of like attacking his own teammates in a way. Not to mention, he continues to pull here a bit longer than he should have. He probably should have realized what was going on, and I certainly realized what was going on. So I'm going to just continue polling here because as long as his teammates are struggling, if I can just, cut half of my actually more, 2/3 of my competition out of this race within the first half a lap, I'm more than happy to do so. So I'm just going to roll a turn right here and make sure his teammates are, best case scenario, they're going to have to continue working to get on my wheel. Worst case scenario is for them is they're going to get dropped, and that'll be it. It'll be 1 versus 1 instead of 1 versus 3. And I flick my elbow here, and I actually get another pull out of him. So this is just another, it doesn't seem like a whole lot, but this is something I talk about in bike racing a lot, especially if you're new to the sport, is you always have to ask yourself this question. What am I doing? Why am I doing it? And if you don't have an answer, you're doing something wrong. So at this moment, I'm getting a fantastic draft, and we are still away. Don't forget, his teammates are still struggling to catch up, and he is working to stay away from his own teammates. Never a good sign. Remember, guys, don't ever chase your teammates, and they're in a situation where they're chasing each other right now. Okay, but eventually they get back on terms, and again, it's just this attack kind of from the front. Like, I had to use some power there, but this is the headwind section. I'm getting an amazing draft, and he just didn't have that snap to pull away from me and open a gap. Meanwhile, this one looks a bit more promising. I'm having deja vu, right? These are the same two riders. So immediately at this point, I'm already realizing kind of the pecking order here, what's what. It seems like these two riders are attacking me, and then I have yet to see the third rider. It seems like he is saving his energy, and he's going to try to duke it out in a field sprint should it come down to a 4-up field sprint. But again, it's kind of the same thing. At least this time it looks like we're not going terribly fast here in the crosswind. I don't think we've dropped his teammates. So they're getting a bit more organized here. This is looking a little bit better, but the problem remains their attacks just don't have that oomph, that wow factor, that, oh my God, I have to chase immediately or else I'm going to risk losing this race. They seem to be kind of going in like half measures, like these kind of 50% attacks when they really need to be committing to these 100%. And yes, a couple hundred meters later, this is looking better. You can see I'm having to do 1,000 watts, but the problem remains. I'm able just to get right back up to speed. We weren't going very fast to begin with, and I'm able just to get right back into the draft here. In fact, it's a tailwind, so it's not terribly consequential that I'm in the draft. But let me explain how this should be looking, because I'll tell you how I would do it. If it was me and two teammates versus one person, I would do that slingshot attack. Like that is an absolute must here. You can even drop a couple of wheels. When it's slow, it's not super important that you're in the draft. Drop a couple of bike lengths, and then just come blowing past the front. It's that delta in speed, the difference between the solo rider's speed and the attacking rider's speed. If you can come past that solo rider with 5 extra miles an hour, even better, 10 extra miles an hour, like really, really gun it's close to impossible to immediately jump into their draft because it requires some insane amount of power. So that enables you to open a gap. That enables your teammates to sit in their draft while they chase back. That's what you want. And then what ends up happening is there becomes a pattern where the chasing rider eventually bridges the gap, the next attack goes. So for example, right here, this rider is attacking. I'm chasing. It's a pretty potent one to be perfectly honest. But what you want is you want everybody to be in my draft right now that there's a gap. But as you can see, the riders aren't in my draft. So it's kind of defeating the purpose of this attack. And that pattern that I was talking about, the moment I make contact right here, the next attack goes. And then the rider in front of me here, the yellow socks, sits up. And then he jumps into my draft as I chase. And then once I make contact, the next attack goes. And you just want this pattern over and over and over. So I am always chasing somebody. And like, it doesn't matter how strong you are. If you can set up that situation in a race, you're gonna win. Because like we talked about at the very beginning, the difference between riders' ability is just a few percentage points, but the difference of being in the draft versus not being in the draft is like 20, sometimes 30 percentage points. And the reason I'm putting in an effort here is just the timing was just beautiful. Thing of beauty. As soon as I make contact, we enter this crosswind section. I look back, I see they're in total disarray, and I may as well put in an effort in this crosswind, the same reason I did the lap before. The difference is this time, when we enter the headwind section, you can see I look back over my shoulder there in the shadow, is I realize there's a gap. And as long as they're out in the wind, kind of fighting to get back onto my wheel, I may as well just continue on the pressure. In fact, I look back again, and this gets even better for me, because as they start chasing me back, they begin to unravel, dropping each other in the process. There was a moment when all three of them were each riding solo, not in each other's draft, not implementing any sort of teamwork. Basically the perfect situation for me. What they should have done is gathered themselves, reconnected as a group of three, and started smoothly rotating, just like it was a team time trial or something like that. That's the fastest, most efficient way to bring me back. 1 versus 3, the one always loses, even if my threshold power is higher, assuming they're organized because of just how significant drafting is in this sport, like we've already talked about. So I was out there by myself for a while, for like a half a lap or something, and eventually they do get organized and chase me back, which, by the way, kudos to them for doing that. That is not a skill that many Cat 5s possess, is the ability to, like, in those moments of panic, like, reconnect, organize, and then start rotating. But here's the problem. It did cost them a significant amount of energy, and most importantly, it forced them to use the energy of their protected sprinter. Don't forget, there's that third rider who we haven't seen yet. I love that strategy of theirs, but now, unfortunately, they're having to use his energy in order to bring me back. This is him now at the front, helping chase me back, spending the energy he was supposed to be saving for the sprint. But look, like I always say, if you're not in position to use your sprint, it doesn't matter if you have the most powerful sprint in the world, so more kudos to them for getting themselves back into this race. So as you can see, they gave it a couple more cracks here in the final moments of this race to try to break away, not let it come down to a sprint. But I think that the defining feature of this race was that moment when I got away and they were kind of all working independently out of each other's draft. And eventually they got organized, but I think that cost them a lot of energy. And really you can see they ended up paying the price for that, because these attacks, while I understand and I appreciate the motivation behind them, they just lack that impact. You know, I'm able to get back on terms with each of their attacks, not allow them to escape, and I'm able to hold it together for a field sprint. So let's see how the final few hundred meters of this race plays out. All right, last kilometer here, and I'm getting an excellent draft. Left to right crosswind. One more, it looks like one more attack here, but yep, I'm right on top of it. Like, I was looking back, I was ready for that one. And I just want to hold things together, save energy in the draft here, left to right crosswind, and see if we can come all together for a sprint with about 200 meters to go. That's the ideal distance, maybe 250 with the tailwind that we're going to see on the sprint here. But this is looking pretty good. Oh, it looks like one more attack. Yeah, one more attack. But really, we're just kind of getting up to speed. I still haven't seen their sprinter. He went right back into the shelter, saving energy, and I still like their approach here. And props. I don't mean to sound too critical. I think that these Cat 5s are really putting together a great race tactics you don't hardly ever see in lower categories. So he's been sitting back, saving energy, but oh my goodness, 400 meters to go. I said maybe 250 at the most, but 400 is a very early sprint, and I'm able to get right into his draft. And he is big diesel power. He's bringing us up to speed. The problem is I'm in his draft, so that means I'm doing much less power than he is. And yeah, with about 150 meters to go, he starts to slow down. I start to speed up because I had that energy saved from being in his draft. I'm able to come around him, take the W. What's up? Cat 1 versus 3 Cat 5s. I did not think I was going to win that. And it's not because I am more powerful. I think that's one small component of it is I've just trained for a lot longer than these guys. A big part of it is they didn't execute their numerical advantage, and it's complicated. Like, I don't want to sound too critical. It is difficult. This sport is not easy, and that's the reason why you generally don't see teamwork in cycling until pretty high levels of the sport. I'm rambling. If you guys like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe. I want to do more of these. These are a lot of fun. I think they're a great way to describe bike racing strategy, kind of simplify things, and they're a lot of fun to make. So as always, thanks for hanging in there, guys, and I'll catch you in the next one.